as well, man. You can't sleep on that division either.
And that's what I'm saying. Like 35 and 40, just interesting. There's a lot going on. Tank, I feel like they need to put Tank in there with a Tio, with a Dev, with a Shakur. They need to make that happen because it's starting to look like with Tank, it's just perfect matchmaking. You know what I mean? And I know Tank can fight. I believe he can fight. I believe in his skills. I believe in his power.
Absolutely.
I seen it. But it's just like, we need to really put him in one of these super fights. You know what I mean?
He needs to be, because he's the older out of all these guys. He's like 27, 28 years old. So if he's talking about he want to get out the game, they need to go ahead and make these fights. At 135, Shakur is right there. I wouldn't want them to make that fight right away, but that's the best fight at 135 to be made.
Yeah. And sometimes you gotta have those fights because it's too much talking going on and people gonna lose interest. You know what I mean? You don't want people to lose interest. Because just as fast as we was talking about Tank and Ryan, and then we was talking about Shakur moving to 35 and putting on a great performance, and then we was talking about what's the name, Devin and Lomachenko. Right after that, we had Bud and Spence, and that took over. The Bud and Spence conversation washed all of that away.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So,
but the reason why, but you had to understand it. Well, you know the reason why. That was a real fight. That was a fight we all wanted. And that fight had been bubbling for so long. And Ryan and Tank, that was a good fight, but that wasn't what we was clamoring for. We didn't want that. Right. You know, we know that Ryan can fight, but we know that he ain't on a level of a Tank Davis. We know that Shakur is there, and Shakur needs a test because he's calling everybody out. He making a mess on Twitter, especially now. So we need to see those type of fights.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. But 140, the 140 is there's some bangers there, man. I think this would be a good test for Dev to find out where he is right now. But I still think like a Gary Antuane Russell, man. I think that's like the cream of the crop right there.
Yeah, he definitely like a wild card. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because he hasn't had the opportunity to fight for a title, but you could clearly see he's ready for a shot, probably with anybody, because for the experience he don't have as a pro, he has a lot of experience as an amateur. But even in the pros, he's fought some seasoned guys. And I mean, he just overwhelmed them. If he don't find somebody that can slow him down, he gonna keep doing the same thing over and over. So I think putting him in a bigger fight, you know what I mean, would be great.
Who would you like to see him tested up against?
I mean, I like the Subriel Matias fight. I like the Rolly fight. I like all of those fights. They saying Josh Taylor. No, not Josh Taylor. I'm sorry. Tio. I like the Tio fight.
That would be a good fight too.
I like all of those fights for a guy like Gary Antuane because he a humble kid. He been putting in the work, and all he wanted is the opportunity. And I think he deserved it because he knocked out everybody, stopped everybody that he fought.
Teofimo surprised me. I didn't expect him to do that to Josh Taylor. I'm not sure what type of night Josh Taylor had, but you showed up for the fight. You were there.
Yeah.
And the game plan was off. Tio looked very good that night. They said Gordo would show up for the fight. I heard an interview where Bill Haney said before that fight went down, he said Gordo needs to start showing up at these type of fights because this other guy that just showing up trying to knock people out, that's not boxing. Boxing, you try to show up and knock people out in boxing. That's how you get hurt. You know what I mean? And for those who are listening, man, boxing is not just about being brave and being stupid enough to get in the ring, but it's about being smart and execution of punches and setting traps. You can't just go in there thinking you're going to throw a bunch of punches and get a guy out of there. Those guys that are like that, they become great action fighters. But those are the guys that you all see later on in life. They don't look too well.
Right.
You know, they take a lot of damage. They go through a lot. They put their body through a lot of shit, you know. So learning the basics of boxing and the levels of boxing, that's the biggest need. That's the biggest need, and it's the biggest to do that should be on anybody's to do list when you're learning the sport.
Right.